Welcome back, everyone, to the Big 3-0. That's right, it's Deadlock Fight Night number 30. Kicking things off with the EU. Big day here in EU Deadlock, so a little bit, better late than never as we're at. ZP here with DDK and Jake. And gentlemen, once again, we got change afoot in the Deadlock scene. We got community rumblings on all levels that we'll get into a little bit later. But either way, I'm excited to see what comes today, especially in the wake of a brand new patch.
Yeah, wild times right now. Big new patch hitting the servers. I think it's not going to be like the biggest, most seismic change, but I'm really interested to see how the mid changes end up playing out, how the team fights end up taking place in that new geometry around the mid lane. And also a lot of hero-specific changes should be bringing things up and down in the power rankings.
But to give you a schedule here for the... Well, actually, hold on a second. Dan, your thoughts. Then we'll do the schedule. Gonna have
my thoughts, my quick thoughts are I expect we're going to see a lot more Prior on Pocket. We can go into that later, but that makes me happy.
All right. Well, the schedule here for today, and yes, some chat are going to be wondering, what's going on with NA? We've seen some questionable tweets. Well, we'll get to that. But the planned schedule for EU will go on as intended. That's right. It's going to be VP taking on one win. Of course, both teams showing all sorts of new looks this week. Abraham's, though, still the king of the hill. NA, I'll be honest with you, we're looking for a team for melee creeps. We're aware of what happened. It will probably not be the cats in suits this time around. It may just be Valhalla taking on Hydra Nation in a BO5. We got the news when you did. So, Dan, these things just happen sometimes in esports.
It does. It shouldn't, but it does. And it leaves us with very awkward discussions, doesn't it?
Jake,
little rut row, little trouble in paradise, but it's also part of the reality. And when a game is very new like this, there's always a ton of roster shakeups, and it's just like, it's one of those things that is pretty much a constant, in this early phase before there's many sponsors and contracts and stability that teams are going to break up and reform. It's going to happen. There's going to be, new teams that we haven't yet met that are also going to be big contenders in the near future. And I feel like that's just a given realistically at this phase of the game. And it's tough to please don't disband on the day of the tournament, guys. Please just do it on Thursday, man. That would really make our life a lot easier and would allow us to run things a little bit smoother, but we'll figure it out. We'll still have, some of that top level Deadlock action that you come to crave on Wednesday nights.
All I know in the, without, betray comments, I think it's one of those situations where there are team changes that are going to be done. And, the partner may have walked in and found out the real secret beforehand, which is why things blew up today. But hey, neither here nor there. We're going to move along here and talk about rosters that don't change, like the Virtus.pro roster has been rock solid across all of Deadlock for months and months. VP, I hope I'm not caster cursing you, but Jake, you look at this VP roster, it helps to stay the same roster when all you do is win, mostly.
Yeah, I mean, but that's where you got to give VP credit. It's like they haven't been, pure winning dominance really at any point in their run. They've been on top many, many times. I think probably maybe spent the most time on top of any one team in Europe. But the EU region has just been really, really competitive, and it's been hard to stay at that level. VP have made a very consistent showing at the top level, though, and I think that their roster stability is part of that, getting through the early phase as a team, and then now coming up, and you just expect them to be competitive every single meta. Patches don't seem to matter for them. It feels like they have the flexibility, they have the team comps, they have the communication. This is just one of those teams that's always going to be swinging for the fences. It's a very common appearance maker in our money matches.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go wrong with this team. I love the stability that they've had too. I don't think you're jinxing it, ZP, and I've been using this new line because people love to say, "Oh, don't jinx it, don't jinx it," because in the with the CS major, I've been like, I'm really kind of going for like the storyline, and I just say to people, like, you can't jinx Destiny, and I don't know if that like makes it worse if I'm like jinxing it harder. But
it's a super jinx. No, I like that, Dan. You know what? If the jinx from the caster is your excuse, you weren't meant to win it anyway.
Of course, their competition, another team that's been pretty stable over the last few months after getting their addition of ABL to the team and finding the right pieces, is a one-win team where obviously they had their absolute month of dominance from late February into about early April. Some patches hit where they've kind of been looking for a way back to the top, kind of number 3 team in EU right now by the results, but looking pretty strong in some of the recent play over the last 2 days, and maybe a better read on things now, Dan.
Yeah, I think, or at least I hope that we're getting there, because it's just such a fan favorite team because of the aggression and how they like to sort of stick to their guns in terms of seeing out their vision of the game. But I think, yeah, the week-to-week iteration, I don't think we have any reason to think that OneWin wouldn't be finding, essentially plugging the holes in this style of play. So I'm curious to see what they bring to the table today, because I feel like in this most recent patch, we have seen a pretty big diversity of how teams would like to actually play. I think VP is interesting because VP is always, I feel like, the barometer of how to play every part of the game well. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way to win in Deadlock. It just means that if you have a strategy that's more win condition, let's say there's a smaller timing for the window of your win condition, that you have to really hit it. And that's a bit more difficult to do sometimes against really good teams. But I feel like there's a lot of room for that in Deadlock. And I think we're seeing it right now. OneWin, I think, epitomizes that in Europe.
Well, moving right along here, it's not just the teams that we've introduced here. That's right, we had a big patch that just hit right before DFN, and it's one of the bigger patches for not like an item shop change or a map change. This, of course, is a community-made graphic. We're just gonna throw it up there. Mega Dirt Potato, I believe, put it together. But look, I mean, Jake, you take a look at this. We got map changes. We got item changes. I mean, a lot of these things were kind of telegraphed, right? Like rescue beam nerfs, some calico nerfs. The devs, if nothing else, are always keyed in on what the good stuff is on the top.
Yeah, I think these are, pretty solid patch changes across the board. The hero changes look good. I especially like some of the mechanic changes that you can no longer deny souls from objectives or from kills, which I think makes like that aggressive, whether you're forcing fights, looking for kills in the early game lanes, makes those more valuable, more worthwhile, because it's pretty hard sometimes to secure the souls at like a super early game kill where you're going to be out of resources when you get the kill. And same goes for clearing walkers a little bit earlier. So maybe seeing a little bit more aggression, maybe seeing a little bit more faster paced play in the early landing stage where things had felt a little bit slow, I think, in the last couple of patches, especially with the rescue beam nerf. I think that item is still good, but it's not an insane sustain item anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're a viewer and you want to get a sense as to what's going to be nerfed, if you just watch the DFNs every week, I feel like it's such a good indication, because we saw the healing over abuse and it's just like so too obvious at that point. And then obviously rescue beam as well. It's been such a big pickup, and it is interesting though, because it's going to get nerfed, but that I think will definitely change how people value certain heroes, because of what of the opportunity cost element that comes into play, where we saw that you could have like a really effective lineup without any true supports, because you could really easily build a support with a new item system into someone that's not typically that way inclined with their abilities, and then just add in a rescue beam, and suddenly you've got like a really sick support. So we might see more of a return potentially to some of the more classic supports that offer some more of that sustain and that kind of like ability to save teammates. Maybe, Viscus was already getting like nerfed a lot, and I feel like that was one of Viscus's roles. So I am curious, but also like, let's say the lasso, that was nerfed a bit by the fact that there's all these rescue beams. Can you just rescue your teammates and so on and so forth? So I love how small changes can have such reverberating impacts on the game.
I feel like there's people out there that look at this change list and they go, I see many nerfs. Where are the buffs? When does McGinnis come back in the fray? Even though apparently she has been played a little bit today. But where's the McGinnis buffs? The Viper buffs? When do these heroes, maybe even Dynamo, bring him back into the fray? But we'll just have to see. We're right now a little bit of a wave of nerfs. Not even just in game too. Also on the casting crew, where normally Jason would be here with us today, and Jason got nerfed by scratching his ear. He got a massive ear infection. So get well soon, Jason, for those wondering. He's around in chat. But, just how it is, guys. Health sometimes gets in the
Look, come hell or high water, we're running Deadlock Fight Night, baby. We're back for the big 3-0. We're not canceling it for nothing. We're bringing it on, bringing the action. And I think especially in Europe, I'm really interested to see, week to week. I feel like with how tight the teams are right now in terms of like, it seems very competitive between this top three. I'm really wondering like who ends up getting the edge from this shakeup from the patch, right? I think this creates an opportunity for a team like OneWin to maybe slide into that money match where they haven't been making an appearance for quite a few weeks, right? They've been kind of going down in the challenger, even though they've been in pretty close competition every time.
Well, what else has been close competition? Our Mo's. Mo and Krill 1v1. They're greased up. They're ready to go. Dan, it's time for some Mo on Mo action. He'll be there. Just
I didn't realize they had to get greased up. Whoa.
I love the new theming on the map, the sewer theming. It looks really good. I feel like the artist cooked. I mean, I don't think this changes anything actually about the geometry of the pit, or nothing major, but it looks great in here. Great environment for our Mo's to never hit each other. There's the parry though from ABL. Oh, Obakim sets it by. It's very even right now. Oh my goodness, the immediate insta parry.
Obakim
is putting that work on.
Parries coming out, backfiring massively. I do agree about the aesthetics too. Let's get that Source 2 engine working. Let's get that. Let's get everything shiny, shall we? You know, it's been really impressive. The Source 2 engine can look really sick. So I actually imagine we're going to get a lot of iterations that are going to make the game even more beautified.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I mean, also, I mean, honestly, the sewer just gives me like TMNT vibes when I go down there. It's like, oh man, there's some stuff going down in these sewers. But yeah, all in all, cool changes to the game. You know, we'll see all the ramifications. It just kind of works out. You know, it happened right before DFN as opposed to in the middle of DFN or right after. So, you know, we lucked out with a little bit of patch note timings here. But as far as I know, players are about ready to get in the game. We'll be in there soon. But Jake, you know, anything you're particularly looking forward to here today?
Yeah, I just want to see, you know, for me, every time there's a new patch, I just want to see what the best players are thinking about, the way they're sort of assessing the game. I mean, obviously with a patch this recent, even for pro players, this is going to be kind of throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. Maybe you just kind of go with what you've been running before and just think, okay, you know what, there's not much change here. The buffs and nerfs are there, but they're not massive, right? There's nothing that's, I think, been like radically blown out of the water from my eyes. Maybe expecting to see a little bit less of Calico and Kelvin, but even Calico, the box running, you can like run on top of the boxes to break them, which is less efficient than it was before and not as flexible, but maybe still leaves Calico a lot of room to grab some of those breakable souls in the early game.
Well, taking a look at the draft here, Dan, we are going to see some differences. The number one, of course, as Jake was just mentioning about Calico, is that I believe Calico is still going to be picked. I don't know if Calico is quite as high on the priority list, but even with some of the nerfs that came in, people, they love what Geist is bringing to the table a little bit too much. But it's kind of funny, though, that Mirage just went all the way back up again, where Mirage was already doing that before this patch, but we had like a week or two where Mirage was going, you know, nearly last. And then all of Deadlock woke up and they're like, well, wait, macro control is actually really, really good. You should be back up there.
Yeah, I think we might see more Pockets and more Yamatos than before. Pocket was already pretty high priority. I think Yamato was on the threshold a little bit, where you would always see that Calico coming, I think, over, you know, just like pushing a Yamato pick out. But I feel like we might see more Yamato based off of that change. But we'll just see like how much of a lag there might be from the patch to nerf and like how people feel about it, because sometimes players overreact and just don't touch the stuff that gets nerfed, and sometimes players don't seem to like care too much. So I'm not sure where it is just yet, but the Warden Sinclair opening is definitely a lot of utility. It seems like teams are prioritizing you know, the more let's say less of the playmakers first, which used to be the case, that we'd always have playmakers as you know, the first picks.
Yeah, right now I think teams are really thinking about the team fighting aspect of the game as their real focus. Like your focus in the beginning of the game is like, who are going to be your team fight initiators? Like you could have those backline damage dealers, like they can be more or less anything. Like you're not prowling that. Even the initiators aren't as valued as much, because it's just like, look, the initiations are going to come down whether we get the Lash, whether we get the Paradox, the Holiday. Like I think there's less commitment on like which one you have. It doesn't matter as much, but the solid team fight group with you know, synergy. Look at VP's like first three, right? These are like all heroes that want to frontline, that want to have like a synergistic, aggressive move. Warden Sinclair I like as well. Sinclair can kind of set things up for Warden, follow him up, and it also protects from the Sinclair as a counterpick to Warden himself.
One of the big changes we've seen. One of the big changes we've seen with VP and their recent draft stuff is that they've really been prioritizing getting haze, but they like getting haze towards the end of the draft. Like for the most part, if VP can get a haze in like the 5th or 6th pick, they've actually been going for that. And oftentimes they'll do it in lieu of, you know, a Paradox or a Holiday. They've kind of said, you know, there's multiple ways to get initiation, multiple ways to sort of, you know, express advantage in the mid game. And, you know, on top of that too, one thing we've seen in the last few days, like really exemplified, I feel like the ideal way the draft, Jake, from what I was saying, is that teams, generally speaking, they want like 2 heroes that they're funneling farm to, and then 4 heroes that are more of an early to mid game focus, where like I think the idea is that you get through the mid game at the very least in a really powerful way, and then all that while you have like 2 characters you can rely on that will be really hard to deal with if they get over farmed like 5-6k ahead of the norm of the game.
I feel like we might be in a dangerous spot in the draft. I don't know what you feel about this, Jake, but I was expecting the pocket instead of the Kelvin, and I liked how
Same.
One Win banned the pocket to prevent that kind of going on the other side. But it does, I feel like, leave One Win in a spot where they don't necessarily have some of that playmaker power. You know, you got Yamato Calico all the way on the other side, so it doesn't feel like there's a lot of presence there. Although they are open to pick Shiv here, so that's, I think, it seems like it might be a must.
I like the Shiv here. I think it's a good matchup into Geist and Yamato, the potential to execute Geist, of course, when she's playing on low HP with their swap. And sort of the same story for Yamato makes it a little bit more awkward to like get value out of the ulti. Infernus, though, got super high prio in NA. I think teams have really woken up to the threat that this character can bring in the late game. I actually think the Infernus Kelvin lane is quite strong. Kelvin with his slows makes it like guaranteed burns for Infernus. And there's almost no one in the game who can stand up to that level of harassment. It's sort of a similar, at least in the laning phase, similar style to what Shiv brings in terms of tons of raw damage to follow up on Kelvin with all the slows.
God, right? Well,
I like the Lash for VP. I mean, we've seen Lash be a strong team fighter, but I think the Kelvin preempting the Lash pick, maybe giving One Win like a strong way to turn in the urn, a strong way to maybe clean up on some of these objective fights or deny the Lash ulti.
The interesting thing about Lash coming in from VP is that VP's actually done like a lot of hero pool reorganizing in just the last week. Maybe it's because of how the last draft went against Abrahams, where they didn't like draft to take away from them or not. But like the Shriek has been Mr. Phil, by the way, overall. So like Shriek is the one where you have like two Shriek heroes in the game at one point, where they had Warden being played and they had Mirage being played, and Shriek usually played one of the two. No, Shriek's been on the Lash, where they go, Shriek, you're up, your Lash duty, not VP. We're actually playing the hero. So they've done a lot of reorging on what's here. Like, for example, with what VP is playing here, it's likely that's probably going to be Zergy on the Geist, which we've seen from time to time. So to me, the fact that VP has done such like reinventing of their team even before here is interesting. But Dan, the Bebop coming in, it's a one-win special. They do like running it much the same way that Abrahams has been running it a lot now.
Yeah, I think it's a really important pick for One Win because they can use it super effectively, and they can often create an argument where you kind of are in this spot where you know they're forcing you to maybe have to have that as a ban, which can give them a draft advantage if it goes super well. Additionally, I really liked that you had the Lash on VP side, which I feel like kind of protects you against One Win picking flyers, and you get to pick obviously Vindicta, no problem. But then the counter with the Bebop, I really like that.
I think Bebop's great against Lash too. Can look him out of his ulti very consistently. It's like one of the better counters I think in the game. And then to get the Shiv here on 6th pick is a great closer. Like they were maybe a little light on frontline on aggression, but now you have a great hero who does tons of damage to follow up on hooks. Haze pick, I like that as well from VP. It's like more initiation, more setup. I think both teams have gotten a draft they actually probably like and they feel pretty good about. Maybe the big difference makers this game are going to be Bebop and Sinclair for One Win team and how they end up executing. Like how, if they can find some of these pickoffs with the hooks, with the rabbit hexes and initiate from there, they could be in a great spot. But by the same token, VP with Yamato Calico, if those heroes are kind of out of control at some point in the game, you could have trouble on Infernus and Warden trying to stand and deliver into them.
Yeah, the interesting thing looking at this draft here is VP's done a lot of hero shuffling and who plays what. So, for example, for Haze, some games they have Zergy on the Haze. Other games they have Obakim. I feel like their general priority has been putting Obakim on the Haze as like the main Haze person because I think they just play it the most. But when you look at their roster and you see, okay, do you have a Zergy hero that otherwise makes sense? In this case, no. Then it probably will be Zergy on the Haze unless they warp something around where they put like Zergy on Geist. And then put someone, Obakim was playing the Haze and they had someone else on the Vindicta.
Could be Michaelis on Vindicta if we've seen him play it before, not for a couple weeks, but in playing a little bit more of a carry style, which I think Vindicta still has a huge snowball threat. I mean, also very interested to see what build you get on Vindicta. We've seen some snipe maxing. We've seen pretty much actually every skill maxed, from Vindicta. So there's very, very disparate builds on the character, giving you a lot of diversity as far as addressing the specific game you're in.
Dan, the other thing is I look at this here too, that's super, super interesting to me just from the changes that came down is, you have Wraith being picked this time around. No Wraith, picked or banned. People saw the nerfs come in, they're like, whoa. We don't want to deal with that anymore. So I do wonder in terms of the nerfs where, Calico's still getting played, if the Wraith nerfs may have at the very least been a little bit too scary on paper.
Yeah. I think that was what I was thinking when I read that because I felt like she was already kind of on this threshold where she gets picked sometimes, but it's not high priority for the class of hero. But with that said, we're going to be jumping into this one now, and I actually feel really good about OneWin's lineup. VP going with a pretty squishy squad overall. I think it's going to be an interesting game.
Well, you know, Jake, it wouldn't be EU if we didn't start with the pause. It is one of the everlasting memes of Deadlock that I don't think is going anywhere soon. It just the culture of quick pauses in EU. It's where we're at. But as we're paused and unpausing and looking at the lanes, anything super interesting to you before we let you go for a bit?
Yeah, just I think let's spend a lot of time on the mid lane, man. Let's see how Bebop works. I mean, actually, it seems like there's a lot less cover in mid. Like maybe this is a good thing for Bebop for the potential to find some of these hooks in the early levels. And we've seen, not for a few weeks, but we have seen occasionally Bebops get off to like a crazy snowball.
All right, well, I can't wait to see that because the Bebop, I think, is one of the most exciting characters. And I feel like it's one of those characters where also, for you as a spectator, it's like really easy to follow the Bebop's POV because there's so many initiations that are possible with the hooks and so many fights that can get set up off at the back of that. So it's another aspect as to why I like the Bebop's presence.
By the way, look at the full lane swaps. Both team side lanes are hard lane swapping to try to hit opposite matchups. I think OneWin team started it and then VP reactively lane swapped to prevent to continue the matchups they want. Kind of a sick level right there.
Oh, yeah. So this has been going on the last few days. We finally hit this realm, Jake, where it surprised me the first time we saw it. I was like, wait, they're actually doing it. Like, we had double lane swaps in one game in the OneWin bombshell tournament, and then it finally ended where a team faked a swap, didn't swap, and came back in the lane. Like, that is how deep the rabbit hole has gone for teams trying to get the lane matchups. And specifically, it's really, we've seen it, I think, for the most part, when Shiv Kelvin is being played. Because teams do not like to run against Shiv Kelvin, they want specific lanes. They don't want to run too weak of a lane against what's objectively one of the strongest lanes in the game. But
I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, it's like I think it is a worthwhile play to do, especially now where you think you can probably get it off without losing any minions if you're pushing the wave. If you clear the wave and then instantly go for it. But yeah, it's always interesting to see how deep the rabbit hole goes in terms of the meta on that one.
Speaking of deep in the rabbit hole, Dan, you actually feel underground when you look at the new mid boss pit. It's like, oh, this is a little bit dank, dark, and scary.
Yeah, it's nice. Oh, hello. Boom received that. That was very visible. I like all these small changes. Yeah, it's definitely like the whole feel of the game is certainly getting all coming together over time.
The map is really, it's gone into a life of its own, where it's just like every little bit, like we're going to look back at some of the early DFNs, and already it would be the case, you just go like, wait, what was the map? Like, what was even the game? It's like, oh, they weren't kidding when they said it was an alpha. They were actually being serious.
Yeah. Yeah, I sometimes think to the 4-lane days, and I'm thinking to myself, how did it even look? I don't even remember, because there's been so many, like, actually huge changes to the overall architecture of the map.
Yeah, take a look here. Lane-wise, no major advantages here so far, though. Taking Listic getting a little bit low, pushing up into the blue-hand side. And, the interesting thing when you take a look at the right lane, they have not been fully taken over by the Shiv Kelvin lane, which, by the way, there was another lane swap that occurred there. Wait, there's more lane swapping going on, Dan. The lane swapping just doesn't stop. Like, I had made this comment before and seeing this, that if teams keep doing this where, look, there's more lane swapping that's going on, eventually teleporters are going to get a cooldown if teams don't stop this. I'm just letting you know right now, like, this is going to cause change in the game if we just keep having this, like, continual lane swap meta.
Yeah, we'll see. I think it's one of those things where it's so new as well that teams haven't optimized, like, because it might be the case that it's actually a bad thing to do beyond like once or twice, just inherently, because then you're potentially losing out on a lot of souls in the lane. So, but maybe not. I don't know. I think it might be one of those things where, unlike just everyone buying healing novas, where it's like, yeah, you probably should change this pretty quick. I feel like Valve might wait and see a little bit on the lane swapping.
I think it just depends on how prevalent it is. Like, if every opening of the game just turns into people going back to teleporter to swap, I definitely think it'll be one of those like, okay, like hold on, sort of situations, because then it's just like, do you cast what's going on in the lanes, or you just cast the continual lane swapping? Things are getting a little bit down and dirty in middle. I think Bebop may have just landed a hook in overseas, and given that Obikim just went down, was that in middle? Yeah, it was middle. That sounds about right to me. Like reading the minimap and the life bars, I'll give overseas the credit on that one, personally.
And for the uninitiated of you out there as well, you know, the Bebop lane presence is unique in the sense that whenever the hook is off cooldown, which is fairly quickly, you always have to be worried on the other side that the Bebop could hook at any moment. So there's only certain spots you can stand in, and you have to be very careful about the lines that you take. So it gives a lot of just inherent control of the lane without Bebop really having to even shoot the hooks, because there's only certain spots you can stand because the other team has to respect it. And look how fast we have this tower down, 430. It gets to come down, and that's another area of control. That's, you know, ability that we have in the beam there from Bebop too. So it's the hyper beam. So very good character to get that opening initiation, break that opening inertia.
Oh,
that was close.
That was right at the margin where everything is like, wait, I actually had enough HP not to die to killing blow there. But that does nothing for the Kelvin. That just chases you down without a fear, has a frozen shelter, and now is trying not to get whomped by Geist. In turn, Flammable, trying to go at 150 HP, goes for the Hail Mary parry. Not going to get it. VP there in the punish.
Yeah, Overseas died as well, and so this is actually potentially kind of bad because there was such great work for OneWin to get that mid Guardian down, and, you know, with those kills getting converted, I wonder if they'll lose a lot of health on their Guardian. But with that said, actually, that's not the case, because instead, what we'll see is Demoff on the Calico breaking away from mid, going to that right side lane to provide some assistance, because that right side Guardian is under pressure as well. At the same time, we see that this is the lane that's going a bit better here for VP. Pretty deep on this one, but see if they can get some more work done.
Yeah, I mean, right lane's turned into a bit of a battleground after one Guardian is down. Xenon, meanwhile, able to find Listic. And what I'm curious here is, I feel like it's going to be more or less a very mobile Bebop game when you think about the middle, where, you know, OneWin was able to take middle lane down. And, you know, of course, I say that Bebop now over into the left-hand side, and the rest of it, they've decided, okay, Infernus, you get to farm. And this has been the flow for laning here, is that once you get Guardian down, ideally you get the Guardian down in a lane where someone can go and become a roamer, and you can funnel farm into the survivor. And that's really become the meta for laning if you win quickly, and it's been kind of universal amongst the top teams.
Yeah, it's definitely been something we have observed. That's a big pick off there coming in for OneWin, because that's 2 Guardians now against the one that VP have.
Yeah, and Bebop's still hanging out over in the left-hand side. Tower's still down, and you know, in this case, I think Overseas is just looking for areas to get pickoffs. It doesn't necessarily have to be pushing remaining Guardians from where we're at. Also, looking over to the right-hand side, you know, just a little bit of view of D-Mov, who uses Return to the Shadows, hops on out. But, you know, you look at the overall game state here, 33k to 33k, dead even on the aggregate. Looking at the soul allocation, too, I mean, you know, VP and OneWin both basically funneling farm to the people they need for the most part. Arguably, you know, Zanya should be a little bit higher, but ABL exactly where you'd want it for us to be. In fact, highest in the game at the moment.
Yeah, like big push on the left side too. Lots of pressure there. That's a pretty gankable position for OneWin's, you know, where the players are at the moment. But the problem is that every lane is under threat for the most part here. So OneWin definitely on the overall map control, kind of dictating what VP have to do. They have to react to where the aggression is. And speaking of which, we get Demoff coming over on the Calico once again, trying to intercept Overseas on the Bebop, who's also trying to help to gank that right side lane. So that right side lane right now, a lot of action here. Hyper Beam coming on through there to control the fight. Lots of damage that can come out of that one. That has to be an evacuation there for VP, getting out of the range of the Hyper Beam. And they're going to escape that for now, but yeah, it looks like everyone will disengage. And that lane will be saved by VP.
Kind of interesting, looking at allocations here. Shriek actually one of the most fed people for VP, where I think it's funny how VP has had to evolve. Like we're talking about who's playing on what. There's so many different ways that VP could have broken down this comp where they're at, but, you know, it's a return to the KLS on the Vindicta, which is something we haven't seen a whole lot recently. But Shriek had to be the Mr. Phil. Is like, well, someone has to fill and go in and be our Lash player. And Shriek's like, I'll forsake my Warden, I'll forsake my Mirage. You know what? I'll become Jacob Lash, but take a look here. Got Hayes on the move. Looking for something.
Ooh, nice.
As Michaelis just connects.
So we'll see if Michaelis can stay out here. He continues to do some damage. Virtus.pro. Oh, they're going to have the blade dance coming on through. But the damage is pretty nasty. Nice connection on the sleep dagger there. Good escape as well in the meantime. There's pressure on this right side Guardian here to try to take away this tower, try to equalize things here for, or rather, sorry, to extend the lead here for Swarm. And that's the last remaining Guardian they want to take down, these early ones. So they're going to get forced back slightly with the reinforcements coming on in here. The one win. It's Kelvin, really annoying to deal with.
I am superior.
On the run right now. Just saying, okay, I'd like to get out of this fight, but chase down not going to be directly followed. So VP open up a little bit of a lead here. 30 seconds before hitting mid buffs and beginning of first earn. So anyway, take a look at earn fights. I think part of why VP may be valuing Lash a little bit more highly is that it is difficult to overstate like the impact that you're getting from Lash in some of the earn fights and control you have there. Like you have to actually give Death Slam more respect than anything else. As okay, Empty Dream just gets crunched. The rotation comes on in, and Last Stand definitely not going to be saving in the moment. And you know, Guardian on the right side of the map, Zanya picking it up. So 3 Guardians down. Where, by the way, remember, you need 3 Guardians down for your flex slot now, not just 2.
There we go, buff. They're on the Shiv. Vitality buff. Actually, kind of rough. The survival is kind of crazy as it is. But right now, it does really feel like, despite the fact that one would have managed to have this advantage on the map, they're converting off of that. It feels like they haven't done a lot in that respect. VP holding on really nicely. The fact that they're still ahead on the overall souls is a really good sign. And now with that urn collected, and they're in a good position with the lane control on the right side to actually deposit this one. They could start to actually take over this game here. So one win, the tide's slowly turning against them.
Yeah, I mean, one win can try and contest with Frozen Shelter, but this could be ugly. I mean, VP has everything set up for it. They got the Death Slam to clear the area as they move over. But yeah, it's a full commit here for VP, looking for the turn in here now. Earn, it gets dropped. And now looking for the team fight. Got Bebop on the rooftop. Flash looking for the engage. Shriek down dirty with it. Listic going up in here in the close quarters. Shadow transformation. Zanya gonna fall. Earn, though, meanwhile, mid-fight picked up by Orsi's. Orsi's just gonna try and turn it in while this is going on or run away. One win, looking to reposition a little bit. Obikim got super low in the turn. It is all over the place on this fight at the moment. Left, right, and center. Bebop now bring the Earn back on in. Listic looking for the hit onto Kelvin. Gonna finish him off. Flammable down. Earn turned in by Overseas, even while the rest of one win is kind of getting cleaned up.
VP with good amount of control now. So, okay. Oh, there comes the swap. Beautiful timing on that one. Although, guys, I'm not going to be able to get the finish on the Warden. Is there any assistance coming there to try to keep Zerky up on the guys trying desperately to survive against the Shiv? Zanya chasing it down, having the success, able to eventually get that kill. And it's really important here because, again, I feel like one win, it kind of feels like the initial wins that they had in the early game are somewhat fading, and we're starting to see VP, I think, get out on the map more, find the ability to not be as reactive, but instead take some of their own fights. Obviously, I think the Urn was an inflection point with regards to that. But with that said, one win kind of grouping up in the mid area in the opposing jungle, looking to find something.
Super interesting fight overall. I think it ended up being more so of a wash. You see Sharik gonna apply a little bit of pressure towards Bebop, not gonna full commit, but yeah, I mean, it felt like a little bit of a wash where Overseas got the Earn turn in. One win, lost a few players in the interim, but they were able to get a cleanup kill at the end. It was kind of one of the more sloppier Earns we've seen, but okay, we got Frozen Shelter up here. Flash stalking from the top. Getting ready to drop on down, perhaps. Not done here just yet. Back over to the shop. Yamada, a little bit of counter fire. Now, taking a look at Zanya. Zanya getting super low, maybe caught here by VP. 500 HP in a Dream, trying to get over to the vent, up and over. Gonna get cover from Overseas on the Hyper Beam, and got the Death Slam coming on out. Did they catch anyone? Wait, that wasn't Death Slam. I thought I heard a bell. I actually quite literally did not hear a bell. Or no, I did. It was Xeno. Xeno copied it. I don't think he hit anyone. All over the place, Dan.
It's hard, man. It's definitely hard. That's still definitely something they're going to be working on. I feel like helping us to make it a bit easier on the casters to understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah, you know, at this point, you know, probably a good time to call him Jake. Jake, we've just had a very chaotic last 5 minutes down to the urn fight. It's been interesting.
That's a big hook on the lash now. I mean, if they're able to convert that into a kill, it'd be nice. Seems like it could happen. And I think this kind of chaotic fighting, though, is good for VP in the end, right? Like, Obakim is able to get very active. It's almost like they have an extra core here. Kelvin playing very much for the support. And Big Deathman here could be a major problem now. Shiv being targeted down.
Yep, Shiv in danger, Zanya. Well, Frozen Shelter is there just in the next time. When you think Shiv is about to go down, you got Kelvin here on the save. Listic, though, still ready to rumble in close quarters. Zanya not out of fire here just yet. 200 HP, gonna get finished off. But while this goes on, Overseas able to get down one. VP, though, again, the better of the trades here so far. But, you know, interestingly enough, Overseas, again, he'll make a little bit of extra space with the Hyper Beam. Feels like more prolific Hyper Beams than the norm so far, Dan.
Yeah, I think the Hyper Beam is one of the most interesting aspects of the Bebop play. I mean, it just has such presence on the field with it. Able to control some of these fights, these big urn fights especially. I think it can really make a big difference. But right now, I mean, it looks like Hayes is, you know, Obakim is trying to find something aggressive in the jungle there. Looked like ran into the ABL on the minimap and able to get out of there. But it does feel like VP are in a position right now to potentially find ganks. Obviously, able to get this bridge buff. One win coming out onto the right side lane at the same time, but there's a lot of VP players here at the moment. Just looking for that urn pickup. And it doesn't seem like One Win care too much about it.
Yeah, I mean, VP, they're going to get urn control, and it's kind of interesting because you would think One Win would try and fight a little bit harder for urn control, especially when Death Slam is on cooldown, and you don't have to necessarily worry about getting absolutely crunched by what oftentimes is an advantage for the team at the lash there. But, you know, I just kind of look at how One Win, what they're looking to take on the map here overall, and they're just kind of contesting neutral a little bit harder, trying to maintain lane hygiene a little bit more, and back and forth. But now, a little bit of pressure here on the Zergy as Xenon decides wants to rumble a little bit on the left-hand side.
All right, well, here we go. There's just a chase coming in here once again. D-Mob trying to take this fight. There's a lot of players here for VP, though, so it might be rather challenging. It looks like One Win will go, rather ABL will go down. And you've also got a pretty forward position here for Zanya, trying to escape, but this is not looking very good for Zanya at the moment. Gets eaten alive, chased down. And indeed, VP, they're slowly creeping ahead here, looking to take some of these engagements. I don't think it's going to stop just yet. The pursuit is on, also, to try to catch Zenon on that, on the Magician. This is not... Oh my god, the catch comes on through. Beautiful hook.
Yeah, directly into the slam for the Walker, too. Perfectly set up by Overseas. But there is a really troubling problem here for One Win team. Zanya has been getting focused fired a lot. He has been a whipping boy for most of this game. It is nearly 17 minutes and your lash is at 11,000. Meanwhile, counterparts on the other team, Geist at 18, Yamato at 17. This is so bad for One Win when one of their key goals here, you know, end game factors, is to make the Shiv a threat. And yeah, I mean, in a late game fight, you can be kind of a killing blow bot. And, you know, you do have a Warden who's another big mouth to feed along with Infernus, but I don't love the way that the allocation has kind of turned out here for One Win. It's really going to hurt when the Shiv is just kind of a distraction rather than, you know, a big beefy frontliner in some of these later team fights.
Yeah, right now, oh, okay, engagement again. Might have to try to get out of this one. And it looks like that's, I mean, this is the beauty of playing the Calico. It's very hard to lock you down. At the same time, we get this pressure coming in on the right side lane also, as well as the left here. So again, this is VP really starting to control the map again, forcing the reactions from One Win instead. So we get 4 players going to the right side of the map for One Win in reaction to that right side push. Also having to defend the left side, but looks like VP, they want to commit to this engagement. They're looking to potentially take the fight. The TP's here for the defensive, the cavalry coming on in to aid in this fight for One Win's defense. It's not actually going super well here. VP have constructed a really good fight. The shelter comes in maybe a little bit late. The Flammable, unable to really have as much impact with that one. And this gives a decisive lead here for VP, taking every single kill. And they're going to be able to take down this Walker surely on the back of this as they look to try to find the remaining kills that are, I mean, you've got the overseas. He's trying to escape.
He's trying to. May end up doing it. Oh, my word. If that Sleep Dagger had actually hit, that was so close. And overseas still going to go down. Get a little bit of counterfire, get able to take down the KLS. ABL going up with concussive combustion, still very farm, still very much threatening at 21K, by the way. The one really big hope for one win to turn things around. But, you know, another thing we've been seeing in this game when you look at the minimap here is that VP, you know, I wonder if we need a new classification for characters that are just hyper mobility and what they give you in scouting and extra info on the map, because I feel like there's something special about running both Calico and Haze at the same time, because they're some of the quickest characters in the game for mobility, and the nature of both the cat and just stealth, it gives you recon on the map that you don't really get with other heroes. And, you know, well, kind of a good time to, you know, Jake, what do you think about that with both the Haze and the Calico? Just, you know, not quite map hacking, but you get more intel than the norm.
More intel is always good. That's why we have Jake here as well.
Yeah, that's. I think you're exactly right. I think it's sort of like almost like a scouting role is pretty crucial. You know, getting vision. Of course, there's no wards in this game, but it's almost like walking wards. The way that Haze and Calico are being played right now, and then you're seeing Obichem is a really huge threat. Like it's mitigating one win team. It's like even if you just don't see Haze on a lane, it's a little bit scarier to come out onto, you know, clear your lanes, clear your jungle. You have to worry about the possibility of a turnaround. Yamato though got to do some of that turnaround herself.
And Listic more than farmed up to take the fight directly, Zanya. No fear. No fear in this situation. You just walk right on in with Sharik. Take down two right as they stand. And VP looking very strong now. Obichem was getting chased down by Sinclair off on the side. Frozen Shelter. Get down here for Flammable, fighting Sharik. But he's just getting punched. He's actually just getting beaten up in his own freezer, Dan. And VP now has created just a very significant gap on the game. And, you know, you look at one win, and I don't think a farmed Infernus is necessarily going to be enough to turn this one around.
No, it felt like one win just was slowly slipping away from them after the initial lead they got on objectives. They just weren't able to really convert that correctly, and that might be, you know, that kind of, you know, hold that thought, because we might have a steal attempt coming on here from one win. You've got overseas looking to go in. You've got concussive combustion jumping on in. Are they able to find the steal? Absolutely not. VP are going to deny that one from them, and they're going to take the kills as well. Thank you very much. One win will lose a couple players there, in addition to the rejuvenation. And it was a worthy try, because I think it's like you said, ZP, they're kind of stuck in a very bad position right now.
I mean, honestly, in terms of Infernus steal attempts, that was so close from ABL. Got nearly everyone with the combustion, but the end result, still not what one win was looking for. They're not going to get any relief courtesy of the Rejuvenator, and gonna lose another Walker here, where, again, remember too, in terms of flex slots, they're going to be harder to come by here for one win. It's not just, you know, get two Walkers and feel good about it. No, you got to get all three, and right now they don't even have a single one. So this is, you know, you're going to feel pinched a little bit if you're behind on objectives now in a way that you didn't previously. Before this patch. Yeah,
it's hard to find the angle for them, you know, either in, let's say, the catch or the team fight, or you know, having someone that's super competitive on the souls. It's really only just ABL that you could say that for. And Infernus doesn't have quite that burst damage potential, especially at this kind of part of the game, that I think would make that a pick-off threat if you get like a good engagement where you just like burst someone down really fast. So it does seem rather bleak at the moment for one win. And I think I mentioned, you know, early in the broadcast that sometimes you have these small windows where your win conditions can kind of give you that timing where you can just win the match. I feel like we're kind of past that for one win with this case, but either way, another engagement here around this left side Walker, and it looks like a pretty good start here for VP. I think one win have the right idea by trying to take this fight, but it is overwhelming here from VP's strength.
I feel like the definition of hopelessness that you start getting when you know it's over is when you see Kelvin at +1 dome someone in. You get the 2-on-1 in a dome where you're getting regenerating HP, and nothing happens. You just fail to kill the person, the dome fades, and you instantly get smacked in the mouth. That's what just happened there. And at this point, it is VP effectively on autopilot. I mean, the lead now has ballooned to over 50,000. The win conditions are super narrow. Your top end farm in the game is 31K, and your Shiv is at 17. Jake, I take a look at this, and I don't think the win conditions really exist anymore for one win.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This one looks very over. Shiv gonna be going down here. Just way too much of a lead right now for a team as good as VP, and they're up basically 50, 55K on the game. And you know, Obicam is such a problem. How do you ever come onto the map? I like this conservative build he's going for with the counterspell, with the spirit resilience. I mean, he's very tanky on this Haze, like deceptively tanky for how much damage Haze does. And there's just too many threats. I mean, Yamato, when she gets her ulti online, I think they may just stay and end this with the lead that they have. And Yamato is going to be the tip of that spear more than likely.
You know, I gotta call it, Dan. When I'm thinking about like value VPs getting the draft, particularly over the last few days, the Haze has been a really big threat. I think even more so when you're able to pair it with the Calico and just having constant map information. I don't know if VP should be able to get away with getting Haze as a last pick, as they've been doing in draft over and over again. I feel like Haze's value should be a little bit higher, at the very least from the team you're playing against and denying it or otherwise, you know, whether it be with a mid-stage ban or not, because it definitely did a lot for VP in maintaining their presence, particularly as they got into the mid-game.
That's a really good point. I wonder if we'll see that as an adaptation coming in from Abrahams, because yeah, I totally agree. And that's an interesting dimension to all of this as we see what could be one of the final fights here. Riju still up actually for VP, as one man trying to find an engagement that works, but even in these kind of sprawly fights where you can sometimes find good positioning to isolate players and maybe get 2v1s and so on, it's just too big, the difference here. One win getting Zergy within an inch of his life, but somehow Zergy's health bar actually was completely black. There was nothing in there, but he's still alive, so I don't understand.
Health is a resource. Also, that might just be the GG. ABL a little preemptively out of the game. We got the well played, good job thrown in by D-Mov, and
it's fine. That one's not preemptive. He's not going to be respawning before the game.
No, that's also true. That's also true.
That's a true GG. if you actually GG out and make the game end, you would in this spot for sure.
That is very true. So VP looking strong at the end. It was even for a while, but man, oh man, their mid game hard to argue against. VP getting into the money match once more, and you know, overall, Jake, pretty interesting game where I feel like VP in just the period of 1 week, they have done some reinventing of how they decide to play the game.
I think the draft priority looks pretty sick. Like I think that the vision of the heavy team fighting frontline seems really strong, really hard to answer. Like, you know, I like, what do you need to deal with this Yamato, Geist, and Calico? Is it like a dynamo? I mean, it just feels like you're really grasping at straws to answer that level of frontline. And then once Haze comes online, man, you're in a world of hurt. There's so many openers coming up against you. There's the lash if you're trying to overcommit too much. So I think VP just have a really sharp read on this meta. Things like the Warden haven't been looking as good, honestly, at this level of play. I feel like he's a little too one note with the ulti, you know, being like your obvious power spike. The ulti is so strong, you're unfightable for doing the ulti. And then once it's over, or if you get baited and you don't get value at it, or you get stunned and you lose the cooldown. I mean, there's so many ways it can go really, really wrong for Warden, even when he does have farm, even when he is in a relevant spot net worth wise.
All I'll say is Play With Me was ahead of his time. wish Play With Me was here to experience this Haze meta. That'd be nice.
I mean, hey, look, right now there's all sorts of rumblings with team comps. Maybe this is the time where you go, hey, Play With Me, come back. It's time. Like, we got your hero back, but I think the problem is that if you're going against a new team and you see Play With Me is on their roster, I feel like you just go out of your way and you go, no Haze for you. Like, we're not allowing this to happen. We're kind of aware of the old stories. We've read the ancient texts, but you know, I think we're just about ready here for our player of the match. And Jake, who do you got?
Yeah, so this one, I mean, it was tough with the across the board solid performance from VP in the team fights, but I think this time we can reveal it right now. Our MVP presented by Intel, and I went with Obicim here. I just thought that the presence from the Haze, all these pickoffs, was such a problem in the team fights. Like, the front line was really solid from the rest of VP, and they really understand how to use this in the team play context. But so many times it's Obicim scouting out things before the fight, allowing the team to decide, you know, what fights they want to take. A lot of solo kill pickoffs and just tons of presence. I think ABL was very farm for one-win team, had like the best chance to carry and clutch the game out. But Haze ensured that, you know, he's never getting the fight that he wants, and VP always know what threats are on the horizon for them.
The interesting thing to me when I look at this is it does feel like also a shift in team fighting strategy, where the paradigm in Deadlock for a very long time has been the idea of, well, you use something like a Paradox or a Holiday, and that is your playmaker. But Hayes is one of those heroes that kind of lets you play make in a different way, with the stealth, with the ability to get more map presence. Yeah, you still have the Lash on there, who's also like kind of in that role, but it's a different way of initiating fights and keeping pressure than just, here's a lasso, here's a swap.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the utility too. We're talking about the intel game that you have with Hayes, and that Hayes can do a lot of sneaky stuff, and also in terms of like trying to steal some of the sacrifices and kind of be just really problematic, because in those 1v1s with the sleep dagger as well for safety, it does give you the luxury to go out there by yourself in a ways that are, I feel like, somewhat unique to Hayes. So, and I think we could see this hypothesis from Play With Me. That's kind of how Play With Me was innovative and found a lot of value there, was really mastering that aspect of Hayes, and it just feels so strong at the moment.
Yeah, I think these like disabling actives on Hayes is a sick build, because not only do those actives, they kind of give you a lot of the catch and kill potential of a Paradox or of a Holiday, but then you can finish your own food in those fights, right? Like you can get those kills down, especially, you know, how long the fight tends to go with somebody when they're, you know, CC'd by all these actives. Just the passive kind of carries in terms of damage for Hayes. It feels like you don't really need, like, he doesn't have that much gun items here on Hayes, like pretty minimal investment there into the gun. And yet his damage is very relevant, right? Like he's lowest on his team, but still pretty significant. 20K is like just a little bit under the Vindicta. So I like this decision-making from VP. I think Michaelis on the Vindicta as well, going for like more of a controlling CC tanky build. Like I just really like the way VP is thinking about the game right now, the way they're building all their heroes to optimize for like an end game team fight.
Yeah, and I mean, this is kind of the VP cycle, right? We talked a little bit in the open, is that, you know, VP will be on top for quite a while, and EU is competitive enough that staying on top is difficult. VP will get knocked off the throne, you know, sometimes a few weeks, sometimes even a month. But VP, they stay stable, they learn from their mistakes, and eventually they get a better read on the meta. They come back stronger. And to me, I feel like I'm very excited for VP Abrahams coming up after this, more so than even the norm, because this is 1 week here, Dan, where I feel like VP has done more work to reinvigorate themselves and really take a fresh look at the game, especially within the confines of new patch, than maybe we saw even last week.
Yeah, I think, you know, just the further we get it from big patches, the more stable and consistent things are going to look. And I do agree that VP seem to have great form at the moment. And it's rare, I think, that we have two teams that are in really good form and you legitimately can't say enough good things about both of them, and you actually don't know, you really don't, it's really hard to tell like who's actually going to win. And also, I think with the VP dynamic, that it used to be that with the 1-win versus VP rivalry, that they both played different styles of the game, and so that's kind of how 1-win got a lot of edge. But I like the fact that we get almost like a more kind of sprawling macro game where it is more down to some of VP's strengths. Like they're getting kind of matched in some of their strengths by Abrahams in a way that's, I think, super compelling as a rivalry. We haven't had it in Europe yet.
Alrighty, well, that was our challenging match here in EU. VP up to challenge for the throne once more. Abrahams, though, they are sitting at the top and they still look incredibly strong. Will VP retake the crown this week, or will Abrahams be the ones that remain on top? We'll find out right after this.